a discussion around Teams architecture and structure, a walkthrough Teams roles and permissions, and discussion for Teams management interfaces. All the topics will be accompanied by their respective demo. So let's start with the introduction session. So what is Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork in Office 365. It's a client interface on the top of Office 365 services that provides agile, real-time communication and collaboration for teams. It provides chat, calls, and meetings for today's groups and teams. It's integrated with Office 365 workloads and apps, making it a powerful tool that is customizable and extensible. Microsoft Teams comes with enterprise-grade security and compliance that you would come to expect from Office 365. It makes communication one-on-one and with a group a snap. It allows collaboration in real time. Teams is the fastest growing business app in Microsoft history. Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork for more than 500,000 of our customers, 181 markets across 44 languages and across multiple industries. Data in Teams resides in the geographic region associated with your Office 365 tenant. And as a customer of Office 365, you own and control your data. Microsoft does not scan your email, documents, or Teams for advertisement and has no access to uploaded content. By default, Microsoft engineers have no standing administrative privileges and no standing access to customer data in Office 365. Now, let's have a look at team client types. Microsoft Teams has many clients available. The desktop client is available for Windows 8.1 and up, Windows Server 2012 R2 and up, OS X 10, 11 and up, and there is a desktop client version for Linux. The mobile client version is available for iOS and Android. We also have a web client version that can be accessed by multiple browser types. So there is no installation on your machine needed at all. And all what you need to do is to easily access Office 365 in the browser. All clients require an active internet connection and do not support an offline mode. The desktop client version can be downloaded directly from https://teams.microsoft.com/downloads and also can be downloaded by visiting teams.microsoft.com, where the user would be presented with an option on the screen to download the desktop client. Teams currently being deployed as part of Office Pro Plus, and you can also distribute Microsoft Teams using your existing Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager, a group policy, or any other software distribution channel. The web client can be accessed directly by visiting https://teams.microsoft.com. The web client supports calling and meetings by using WebRTC, so there is no plugin or download required to run Teams in a web browser. The browsers must be configured to allow third-party cookies, and for the best web client experience, we highly recommend using Microsoft Edge for that purpose. As for the mobile clients, they are available through their relevant mobile stores, through Google Play or Apple App Stores. And the supported mobile platforms for Microsoft Teams are Android and iOS. Mobile apps are distributed and updated through their respective mobile platforms' app stores only. For the desktop and web clients updates, those are done through an auto-updated process with no IT administrator intervention required, and this cannot be disabled. The desktop client updates are released every 2 weeks after internal testing and validation through the technology adoption program. This usually takes place on a Tuesday. If a critical update is required, Teams will bypass this schedule and release the update as soon as it's available. If an update is available, the client will automatically download the update in the background, and when the app has an idle state for a period, the update process will kick off. Teams updates independently of Office Pro Plus, even if it's deployed with Office Pro Plus. So please keep that in mind. So let's have a look at Teams architecture and team structure. Teams is built on Office 365 groups, Microsoft Graph, and has the same enterprise level security and compliance as the rest of Office 365. Teams leverages identities stored in Azure Active Directory. When you create a team, the following gets created: a new Office 365 group, a SharePoint online site, and a document library to store team files, an Exchange Online shared mailbox and calendar, and a OneNote notebook. Since Teams provide chat, meetings, file sharing, and call services, you can see its direct integration with our other Office 365 workflows, including OneDrive for Business, SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, and Microsoft Stream. If Microsoft Planner has been integrated with Microsoft Teams, then it will be also part of that use and integration. Your organization might want to get started with Microsoft Teams as a first workload or add it to an existing Office 365 tenant. The diagram shows Microsoft Teams service dependencies. And you don't need to enable dependent services to get started with Microsoft Teams. These will all just work. However, you need to be prepared to manage the following: Office 365 groups, SharePoint team sites, OneDrive for business, mailboxes, stream video, and if Planner is in use, then you need to be ready to do the management in Planner also. In addition to that, if you plan, use, and configure conditional access rules in Azure Active Directory, then you need to include that in your readiness score. So let's have a look at the team structure. Starting with the organization, where all your teams are created and associated with your Office 365 tenant. Then we have the team, which is designated to bring a collection of people, content, and tools in one place. Teams can be used for project-based work or to reflect the internal structure of your organization. Conversation, files, and notes across team channels are only visible to members of the team. A channel helps organize the team's conversation and content around a specific topic. Channels can be organized by topic, discipline, or project. Team owners can create channels and enable team members to create channels as needed. In this diagram, you can see a team called X1050 launch team with multiple channels created. Looking at the go-to-market plan channel, we see tabs along the top of the channel, which enable teams to keep files, notes, and customize content such as Power BI metrics, business goals on a Word document, or an organization chart. The channel can be extended, tab, connectors, and votes to extend its functionality. Teams interact with multiple Office 365 workflows, as the logical diagram showed a little bit before. And for you as administrator, it's important to understand where Teams chat data and Teams file storage take place. Teams chat data is always stored in Exchange Online regardless of mailbox location. Chats in the channel message are stored in a group mailbox, which is always online. Chat messages are stored either in the user's Exchange Online mailbox, or if the user mailbox is on-prem, then the chat messages are stored cloud-based mailbox for this on-prem user. As for the file storage behavior, file sharing in a one-to-one or one-to-N chat are usually stored in the sender's OneDrive for Business under a folder called Microsoft Teams chat files. If the file sharing is happening in a channel within Microsoft Teams, then the files are uploaded to SharePoint. A folder is associated with each channel in the team. So let's have a look at the available team types. So there are three team types available: private teams, which people need to get permission to join. So basically, the user send a join request and it has to be accepted by the owner. So in order to be a part of that team, or the owner can add users directly into that team. Public team is available to anyone in your organization and can be joined without a request process. And the third type is org-wide teams, which provide an automatic way for everyone to be added to teams as they are provisioned on the tenant. The org-wide teams can only be created by people with administrative rights and cannot be created by normal users. The org-wide team has a limitation of 5,000 members, which is intended to be used with the small to medium-sized organizations. Okay, so let's start with the first demo, where we'll see the Teams client types, and also we'll be able to see how Teams utilizes OneDrive for Business and SharePoint Online for file storage. I will log on as a normal user using Teams web client by going to teams.microsoft.com. So that's the easiest way to start utilizing Teams even without the need to use the full rich client. So Alex is a normal user, and we still in this organization allow everyone to create teams. So we go to the Teams tab here and click, and then choose to join or create team. We choose to create a team from here, and we build the team from scratch. If you have already an existing Office 365 group, then you can also convert it to be Microsoft Teams. Since this user does not have an administrative rights, so the only options that he can see for creating a team is the private. So people need to have to get a permission or request to join, or they can be added by the owner directly. Otherwise, they cannot join that team. Or the public, which can be available to anyone in your organization, and it can be joined without the need to approval. So you can create team, and then Alex can add members immediately, or can skip that and do that later. So we'll add agent, and that's it. And since Alex actually had created that team, he will be by default the first owner on that team, and he can assign other owners which will have the same rights as Alex. We discussed, and the logical diagram shows you how we actually utilize OneDrive for Business, for file storage, and also SharePoint Online. And the experience is different depending on where the files are being shared from. So if I choose to do file sharing in one-to-one or one-to-one chat session, then what will happen is that once I actually share that file, it will be copied to the OneDrive for Business for the user. So in this case, Alex, and the required permission rights will be applied there automatically, and the receiving side will be able to access that folder. So if I do, I made that. it. I attach that here. So I go to here and say share this. Now, once Alex clicks the send button, this file will be copied to his OneDrive and then shared with me. It's shared now, so if we hold on for it, I'm going to do here. Sign in. You'll see in his OneDrive for business storage, there will be a folder called Microsoft Team Chat Files. And also you see that the file that you have just shared with Megan has been uploaded here, and the required permissions right has been applied to it. If the user chooses to share a file as a part of a channel conversation, so if we go, for example, here, this channel, and share a file through here, which is this one, demo 2, and share it into the channel. So this will be available through the conversation here, and because when this is shared as a part of the channel conversation, it will actually be stored in the SharePoint Online. So if you go to files in the future, you'll see all the files that has been shared in this channel, and if you activate the option to see them in SharePoint Online, you will see that the file exists here under the general channel for that team. And if we look back at the full document library, you'll see here that there is a channel for each of the, sorry, there is a folder for each of the channels that are created under the Contoso IT team. So let's see here, one, general deployment, management and governance, service strategy and support. And this is reflected here directly. So if you go to under general where I shared, you'll be able to see that the file is actually stored in here. Okay, so let's continue with Teams roles and permissions. There are 3 different levels of users within Teams: Teams owners, Teams members, and Teams guests. Teams owners are the most privileged in the team. They manage membership, guest permissions, and settings within the team. We recommend every team has at least 2 owners, and there can be up to 100 team owners per team. Team members are users within your tenant. They have access to the team, and owners can define what rights members have, like deleting channels, adding apps, etc. Team guests are optional, and they are users from outside your organization. Guest rights can be controlled at the tenant level as well as the team level. This screenshot shows some of the team and channel administrative rights that the team's owners have over the teams that they own. You can see that they control settings related to Teams discovery, guest permissions, member permissions, like allowing them to create and update channels, create private channels, delete channels, remove and add apps, etc. Tenant level settings supersedes Teams level settings. So if an organization disables the feature functionality at the tenant level, that feature won't be available to be controlled at the team and channel level. In terms of licensing, as an administrator, you do not need to have team license assigned, but as an end user, you need to be licensed for one of the many available SKUs. As I mentioned, for basic administrative tasks, you do not need to have any extra licensing rights. But once you're working with advanced administration privileges like privilege identity management and advanced group and advanced reporting features, then you will need to be assigned the respective Azure AD Premium P1 or Azure AD Premium P2, depending on the feature that you are utilizing. This is a quick show of the available licensing options for end users, and please be advised that some of the advanced features like phone system and audio conferencing are only included with E5 licensing, for example, and not E3 licensing. Team admin roles, they are not concentrated to just the Teams admin roles. As we mentioned before, Teams as a client utilizes a lot of the different workloads in Office 365, and in order to do different management and configuration tasks, you need to have administrative rights depending on the use on Azure Active Directory and also on SharePoint Online and Exchange Online, in addition of the Microsoft Team administration services. The Microsoft Office 365, the Microsoft Office 365 Admin Center provide out-of-the-box Teams administration roles. In addition, the Azure portal actually also has these roles plus more roles available with granular permissions if needed to be utilized by our organization. The team admin roles, we have 4 team admin roles that offer dedicated roles for the delegation and management of the team services. The most powerful role is Team Services Administrator, which manages the team service and manage and create the Office 365 groups. The second role is Team Communications Administrator, which manage calling and meeting features within the team server groups. The second role is Team Communications Administrator, which manage calling and meeting features within the team service. The bottom 2 roles, which are Teams Communication Support Engineers and Team Communication Support Specialists, these can be assigned to representatives in the service desk or network team for troubleshooting, call quality, without the need to assign them extra administration right in Teams itself. Some of the more important administrative tasks and notes. When adding or removing users from a team, it's best to be done through the client, as it will be instant. If it's done from PowerShell, you can face some delays. Any Teams enabled users with permission to create an Office 365 group can create a new team and will become owner for that team. So by default, all users with a mailbox and Exchange Online can create Office 365 groups and hence can create teams. This is the default experience, but it can be controlled by administrators, and the team creation rights can be assigned to a certain set of people. If you are worried about having too many teams and some of them are stale and not in use, then you can, as an administrator, set 365 group expiration policies, which can handle the unused groups and can be deleted after putting an expiration period with a minimum of 30 days. Also, in terms of assigning licenses for the end users, rather than licensing on per basis, per user basis, or by utilizing the admin center, you can use the security groups that are synced from on-premises and then assign those groups the required licensing rights or service plans in order to do group-based licensing. Group-based licensing is an Azure AD Premium V1 feature. And if the users are moved between groups, license modifications are effective within minutes. Okay, so let's have a look at the admin roles from Microsoft 365 and Admin Center and from the Azure portal. So I'll log in as global admin through Microsoft. And if we look at portal here, look into the roles, you'll see that the 4 roles related to teams are listed here, just like we mentioned before, with the most powerful being team services admin. And here you can see the actual assigned admins, if any. Another way to access the team's roles is through the Azure portal. So to Azure Active Directory, and we look into the roles and permissions. We'll see all Microsoft 365 Admin Center roles listed here in addition to other more granular permissions roles. So here are the same 4 roles that we talked about that are related to Microsoft Teams, with Team Services Administration or administrators being the most powerful one. If we do add an assignment from here, for example, and we choose a user, Megan, this will eventually reflect also within the role here within Office Microsoft F365 Admin Center. So let's have a look at Microsoft Teams management interfaces that can be utilized by administrators. Since Teams leverages many aspects of the Microsoft 365 suite, administrating Teams requires touching the admin interfaces for the dependent services as well. From the admin center of view, we can do Teams administration through the use of three admin centers: Microsoft 365 Admin Center, Microsoft Team Admin Center, and Microsoft Azure Portal Center. And there are certain tasks and activities which can be done in each of those admin centers. Administrator also can leverage PowerShell for the sake of managing Microsoft Teams. But that would require PowerShell modules beyond the use of Microsoft Teams PowerShell modules, including the need to use Azure Active Directory and MS Online PowerShell modules, Skype for Business Online PowerShell module, Exchange Online Remote PowerShell, and SharePoint Online PowerShell modules. Also, administrators can utilize the Graph API, which is a far more powerful than the Teams PowerShell module. Can be utilized through the Graph API and Graph Explorer. Because Teams uses a number of different Office 365 services, as we said before, we need to use a few different admin centers and portals. On this slide, there's examples of various tasks which can be completed from different admin centers. For example, from the M365 portal, we can do license management and look at usage reports. From the Teams admin center, we can deal with user policy assignments and auth-wide settings and configuration related to the PSTN and audio conferencing, and much more. From the Azure portal, we can control the Office 365 group creating restrictions. Also, we can control Office 365 group expiration and group-based licensing configurations. If we look at the PowerShell breakdown, and because Team uses a number of Office 365 services, then we need to utilize a number of PowerShell modules. And the slides showing examples of the module needed for various tasks. Looking at the PowerShell module scope, we will need both the Skype for Business Online and Teams PowerShell modules for the administration of Microsoft Teams. The Microsoft Teams module contains all the commands that you need to create and manage Teams. More collaboration feature focused. An example would be the use of the get-team-user dmx1 at example.com. Utilizing this PowerShell command will return all the teams that user dmx1 is a member of, while the use of the Skype for Business PowerShell module contains the command list to manage policies, configuration, and other Teams tools. And it allows for many of the unified communication type, configuration, and policy assignments. For example, to see the organization-wide guest access settings, you can use get the -cs Teams guest messaging configuration. And to change that, you can use the same command, but by changing the get to set. Also, if you want to do an assignment through policy, you can use, for example, the grand-cs team app setup policy. This slide shows the modules that are required for managing and administering Microsoft Teams with all their dependent services. The Microsoft Teams PowerShell module can be installed directly from PowerShell using the install module Microsoft Teams and will require a connection to be done to Microsoft Teams with the Connect-Microsoft Teams, where you'll be presented with a login screen and required to enter the administration credentials to log on. If you'd like to get a list of all the available commands in the Teams PowerShell modules, you can use get-command-module Microsoft Teams. This is a sample script that will allow you to create a private team called test team, and it will add 2 users, Fred and John, to be members of that team, and it will add 2 channels, Q4 planning and EXEC status channel. Some of the uses of the non-Microsoft Teams module commandlets. For example, if you need to deal with unified groups, then you'll be utilizing the Exchange Online module. For example, the set unified group command can be used to modify members and owners and subscribers for the Office 365 groups. You can see also examples of commands that are utilized through Azure Active Directory and commands that are utilizing SharePoint Online and Skype for Business Online modules. Another way to administrate Microsoft Teams is by the use of the Microsoft Graph API, which is far more powerful when it comes to administrating Microsoft Teams. Graph API is more development focused, but it would be good for admins to become familiar with it. Graph API spans the entire Office 365 suite and is very powerful. On the slide, there are different parts of team it can be interact with. One area which I would like to highlight here as part of this presentation is the Message Center within the Office 365 Admin Center, which can help you keep a track of upcoming changes, including new and changed features, planned maintenance, or other important announcement related to your tenant, which will help with taking a proactive approach to change management, and also it will be an important area to check the health of your tenant and your data center status. So let's have a look at the multiple admin interfaces utilized by Microsoft Teams. First, we'll start with the Teams Admin Center. This is the main portal where most of the Teams configuration and user policies are configured and applied from. It includes policies related to meeting, messagings, app use, and also it's the area where actually we control things like federation, external access, guest access, and individual team settings. This portal will be covered in details by my colleague in the next session. The next admin interface is Microsoft 365 Admin Center. From here, we can control things like user assignment, license assignment. Like you see here, you can click on the user and assign licenses, and also you can click and see what type of assignments, license assignments have already been assigned to the users. Also, from this portal, we can have access to usage reports. For General Office 365 workloads and for Teams also. From this portal, we can access also the message center, which gives you a high level of planned changes and upcoming changes and feature releases, and also can give you the health status of all your services that are available in your subscription. The next admin interface is the portal for Azure. And from here, when you click on the Azure Active Directory, there are several useful tabs that can be utilized. For example, you click on the Users tab, you'll see Users, and from here, you can see also what type of licensing have been assigned to the users, whether this assignment was a direct or through inheritance, for example, through the group-based licensing. Also, you can see the sign-in activities for users. What did they use to sign in within the Office 365 services, including Teams. Clicking on those, you'll see further details related to that for each users and what type, for example, what type of Teams client has been used for this logon. Also, if you click on audit logs, you'll see activities related to the users, like updating the users or change of licensing or passwords. Also, we can access groups. And groups here include distribution group and Office 365 groups, which are basically created when teams are created. And again, you can access the audit logs related to the groups. For example, to see update related to the groups, if members were added or removed, or the group has been created. It's also the area where we actually can control the expiration. So if there are any teams that are not in use, we can actually put a group expiration policy here with a minimum of 30 days. So any groups that, for example, has not been used for 30 days, can set it to be expired and eventually deleted, and we can, owners automatically get emails 30 days, 15 days, and 1 day before group expiration, and they can actually choose an option to extend the group and have it renewed. We can apply this policy to all the groups, or we can select and choose to have it applied to certain groups. This is again can be done here from the Azure portal. And another area which we have visited before is actually roles and administration, where you can see all the roles as we did before, see the team's roles, and then it's also one of the advantages that we have here. If we go through the team services administration assignment and look into description, we'll see all the available permissions that comes with the assigning the team services administrator role.
Existence and Microsoft Teams policy. We're going also to demonstrate some areas like how to configure guest access / federation, how to change Skype / Teams mode for interoperability between Skype for Business and Teams, and also we're going to demonstrate Microsoft Teams policy. So in access type, we have 3 types of user permission. We have the team owners. Owners are the most privileged in the team. They can manage membership, guest membership, setting within the teams, and they can set up to 100 team owner inside one team itself. Teams members are users within your tenant that they have access to the team, so they can see all the SharePoint or the content that has been shared inside that team. Owners can define what right members, like people have deleting option like channels, apps, and they can configure what members can do inside the team. And then we have guests, which are optional. They are users from outside your organization, and guest rights can be controlled at the tenant level as well as the team level. So you can make it by tenant or by a team level. And then we have a guest access and an external access. When you need to communicate and collaborate with people outside your organization, Microsoft Teams gives you 2 different ways to make that happen. The first one is external access or federation, like 2 different domains. For example, you have your domain is contoso.com and you have a domain called fabricam.com, and you would like to have federation between you and them and communicate like called one-to-one, and you can have group calls and stuff like that. So you can let you find, call, and chat with user in other domain like fabricam.com. Guest access lets you add individual to your team. As guest using their email address, you can collaborate with guests as you would like any other user in your organization. So what you do is just you add a member, and the member you type whatever the email address for that user. The teams will understand that is not inside your organization, and you will see that you have a guest access once you added it by be part of your team channel. Guest access is built on Azure AD B2B. When a guest redeem and invite guest object is created in the invite Azure Active Directory. Inviters tenant can revoke access and use conditional access to enforce multi-factor authentication for that guest. If guests already have an Office 365 subscription, they won't consume one of the guest licenses. IT admin can quickly manage a guest access and use conditional access for multi-factor authentication. Tenant receive 5 guest license for every paid license. So if you have a user with one E3, for example, he can have up to 5 guests. So if you have 100 users with E3, you can have up to 500 guests in your environment. So what is the limitation? First of all, guest access is something outside your organization, so you don't want to control everything. Make sure you understand the guest experience, so you don't try to fix something that isn't a problem. For example, he doesn't have the option to see the organization chart, so he will not fix it because he cannot see what the organization chart or who's reporting to whom. For example, here is a list that I'm putting that isn't available to guests in Microsoft Teams. For example, your OneDrive for Business, you can search people outside of that team. So I'm looking for somebody outside that team that I'm invited to. My organization chart, create a team inside your organization, look for a team inside an organization, or apply twice to a person-to-person chat, which is outside of team itself. Guest is added by to a team by a team owner. So as we spoke about, we have access for team owner. Team owner can add people as a guest in your teams. And also the team owner manage the guest capabilities. Once the team owner has add that user, a guest receive and accept that invitation as we can see from the picture. Guest login and has the guest org setup as an account for fast switching between accounts. So in the right hand side, you can see I have my name and also a Microsoft guest, and I can switch which account I would like to use, so it will directly do it for us. Team members are notified that guests have been added to the team, so they understand that, as you can see from the picture, there is a guest that has been added to that teams. Federation is now called external access, the ability of for peer-to-peer IM calls for users outside your organization. Can work with both Teams and Skype for Business. And in the back end, we are using Skype for Business online infrastructure to utilize this. You can also add allowed or blocked domain can be configured via the admin center. Teams only to Teams only federation or something called a native federation. It gives you a rich IM feature available, like for example, Jeffy's, adding stickers, adding rich text on the chat itself. So you have a lot of feature that you can get inside Teams that is not available for Skype for Business between federation between Teams and Skype. There is no file sharing, however, image can be pasted in line. And in Teams to Teams Skype for Business Federation, you will see only basic IM text. You cannot have the rich text feature. Calling and screen sharing is also possible. Native Teams chat with external user is still limited to one-to-one chat only. External user cannot do a group chat. In the next slide, I'm going to show you a sample of difference, and you can have access to that PowerPoint presentation, so you can also see all the differences between them. In that demo, I'm going to show you how to administrate guest access and federation access. So first of all, you can control it from Azure Active Directory. As you can see from the screen, I connected to my Azure AD. I went to users, and then from the user, I went to user settings. I have something called external user, which is on the rectangle, which you are seeing it's in the red part. Manage external collaboration settings. When I click on that one, I will find something called guest user permission are limited, yes or no. Admins and user in the guest invite role can invite. Members can invite guests. Guests can invite other guests. And also you can see in the collaboration restriction, allow invitation to send to any domain, which is whatever domain name it is, deny invitation to specified domain. So you can only allow guests from a specific domain. Let's say if you click on that one and you want to have only 2 domains to be allowed to be invited as a guest, allow invitation only to specified domains, most restrictive. So this one is deny and the other one is allow. In Microsoft Admin Center, go to Setting, Services, Add-ons, Office 365 Groups. Make sure let group member outside the organization access group content is set to on, as you can see from the screen. If this setting is turned off, guests won't be able to access any group content. Make sure let group owners add people outside the organization to group is set to on. If this setting is turned off, team owners won't be able to add new guests at a minimum. This setting must be on to support guest access. For teams to facilitate by Office 365 group, hence guest access at the Office 365 groups level must be enabled. This is from Office 365 groups level. And you can see from the option, enable sharing at Office 365 tag tenants. I went to security and privacy. I went to sharing. I clicked on the edit part. And once I clicked I see something called let user add new guests to the organization. I can turn it on or off. Also, I can enable guests within Microsoft Teams itself. So if I went to Teams, Admin Center, I go to the org-wide settings, I go to guest access, I see an option to allow guests in Microsoft Teams on or off. Once you turn it on, to toggle allow guest access in Microsoft Teams to on, this will expand the screen to show calling, meeting, and messaging option that can be set for guest access users within Teams. As you can see from the screen, we have a lot of options like allowing video, allowing screen sharing, and you can control what seems to be done by Teams workload. Be aware that guest access setting enable and changes can take a while to propagate. Initial enabling of guest access for Teams can be up to take to 24 to 40 hours, 24 to 48 hours to take effect. Consider enabling this period before setting it up and started to communicate it to user. Here is the option for Skype for Business enabled federation. Teams extending a federation between including Skype consumer and Skype for Business. As you can see, the option for the Skype consumer, which is starting to be enrolled from April. The new feature is being rolled out. The intention of completing worldwide deployment by the end of this April. Teams and Skype user can have personal chats, voice over IP calls with each other. Team user can search for a Skype user with their email address, not Skype ID or phone number, while a Skype user need to know the user principal name of the team user. In Teams only mode, this won't be an issue for tenants that have always used Teams, but could be a problem for these still migrating from Skype for Business Online, unlike Teams. Native federation chat Skype to Teams chats are text only and do not enjoy the full range of text formatting like mention, emoji, and other features coming with Teams. And you have to set allow an hour for a Teams and Skype integration to be done. The second part is how Exchange is interacting with Microsoft Teams. Exchange interact with Microsoft Teams is interact with Exchange through, first of all, what is the mailbox location? For full feature of Teams, you have to set user mailbox must be Exchange Online or Exchange 2016 CU3 Plus with hybrid configuration and above. Team messages are stored in a hidden folder in the user mailbox or the Office 365 group mailbox. Profile picture is stored in the user mailbox. If a user mailbox does not meet the requirement above, the user will not be able to schedule a meeting. The user can make a use of IM by using the optional cloud-based mailbox for on-premise user feature. So if you don't want to enable any kind of mailbox to be on the cloud, and this allows security and compliance feature to be used as the messages are stored in the cloud separately from the user mailbox. So Teams relies on many aspects of Exchange in the back end. Cloud-based mailbox for on-premise user is an optional feature and need to be enabled in order to maintain the functionality. Here is the table. I'm gonna show you that how Exchange is interact. This shows between Exchange Online and between Exchange on-premise and what are the features that are going to be enabled. The most targeted part here that many people ask about, that if I have Exchange on-premise, what is required in order to access my calendar and have access and create meetings and stuff like that. So the most important part, that Exchange must be 2016 CU3 Plus and above in order to maintain the functionality of getting Teams to access your mailbox or your calendar in order to maintain it. So doesn't mean that it's written only Exchange 2016 CU3 Plus. Mean can I have 2013? No, it must be Exchange 2016 CU3 Plus. And if you're going to set the hybrid configuration, hybrid have to be N-1 to be supported. For example, if you have a CU12, you have to go N-2 in order to maintain the functionality for Exchange Hybrid. Teams private chat messages are not yet supported for legal hold for Exchange on-premise. So if you would like to have a legal hold and to compliance, you must have to have the hybrid functionality. So again, Exchange Interact, if you would like to have the full feature, you can have an Exchange Online mailbox, which will give you everything, as you can see from the table itself. You're going to have Exchange on-premise. There is some feature that will be not available unless you do some extra functionality. So for example, if you would like to have the enabling legal hold and retention, you must have a hybrid configuration in order to maintain. If you would like to have Teams access your calendar, you must have 2016 and CU3 Plus. I'm going to leave the table on the notes, and if you would like to see more information about that one, please refer to that table. So what is the Exchange Hybrid requirement? You have to have Azure AD Connect with write-back is required in order to make groups available for on-premise users. What is the prerequisite? Azure AD Premium license required for write-back in order to maintain between the cloud and the on-premise. Exchange Hybrid configuration, at least one of the minimum version like 2013 with CU11, 2016 with CU1. However, as we spoke, you have to have the latest or prior to latest CU. So for example, if we have now CU20, for example, you must have at least one prior to it in order to be supported by Microsoft. So you have to have Exchange 2016 with CU 19 in order to maintain that functionality. E-discovery is always done against Exchange Online. So channel messages are stored in group mailbox, which is always online. Whatever the team chat messages has been inside that channel will be stored in the Exchange Online part. Chat messages need to be stored in a user mailbox if it's a one-to-one, for example. Enabling e-discovery for Teams users with Exchange on-premise mailbox. User need cloud equivalent of mailbox for chat e-discovery. So I need to have another mailbox online in order to have enabled that functionality. Feature can enable via support process. So once you do the license for that user on Exchange Online and give him the plan for Exchange, you call Microsoft to enable that feature. And once the feature has been enabled, team will create cloud equivalent mailbox and use for that mailbox for the chat content. Content will remain interact if mailbox is migrated from on-premise to online. How team mailbox discover the mailbox of the user? We call auto-discover service version 2 to find out AWS URL for the email of the user SMTP address. This is an unauthenticated request using JSON. If AutoDiscover v2 succeed, then based on AWS returned by AutoDiscover call, we take the following decision. If the AWS host URL is https outlook.office365.com, we conclude that user mailbox is on cloud and assume mailbox is discoverable. We don't generate token for Exchange here. The call will have a succeed with HTTP as 200 and no error is response on that data. We conclude the mailbox is discoverable and we can do the functionality then. If you have an Exchange on-premise, starting Exchange to Server 2013 CU19, AutoDiscover v2 is supported. However, Teams does not support Exchange 2013 mailbox in any capacity. For example, if you would like to have to access your calendar, you cannot access your calendar on 2013 mailbox. Exchange Hybrid AWS OS connectivity is required. Exchange has to be trusted by the on-premise, Exchange Online and Exchange on-premise. Exchange 2016 Hybrid Wizard will configure this by default. Exchange 2013 before CU5 will not. In case of customer is using 2013, they can, however, manually update the server to use Evo STS authentication server following on the online documentation, which I'm putting on the slides to enable hybrid model authentication. As we spoke, Teams is an API. It can integrate with a lot of application and solution. It's not only about Exchange, Skype, or voice or whatever kind of application, it has a lot of integration. So Team integrate with other Microsoft application like Planner, Yammer, Power Automate, Forms, which is Microsoft product. Teams also can integrate with third-party application like Trello, CalendarBot, SurveyMonkey, and a lot of application that you can integrate with. Also, one of the core functionality of Teams that Teams can integrate with voice solution, that is, you have a certified gateway in order to connect to your current PBX, or directly the gateway have the connection to your ISP. Now we will go through Skype for Business integration between Teams and Skype for Business. So we have something called interoperability, coexistence, and federation. Coexistence between Skype for Business and Teams for a given user in the journey between Skype and Teams. We support coexistence configuration for Skype for Business and Teams. We have different modes, Skype for Business only mode or Teams only mode. We have Skype for Business and Teams Island full side by side, which means the client will have the two software installed in his machine, the Skype for Business client and the Teams client. Skype for Business and Teams interop mode side by side, so it's the migration, no overlap of capabilities between clients. Customer deployment can involve multiple modes at a different time. Modes are like a building blocks of your journey. Interop, which is mean IM or call between a Skype for Business user and a team user on the same tenant, only available when not an island, full side by side. So in island mode, there is no any kind of interop. It's both separate. So the only interop works when you have the other different mode like Skype for Business only or Teams only or Skype for Business collab mode. Chat and calling. Sender can be a Skype for Business or Teams. Recipient experience is different by the mode applied to user and where user Skype for Business account is homed. So either the Skype for Business on-premise, Skype for Business online, and where is this user exactly where. Meeting can be scheduled in Skype for Business or Teams. Meeting will be hosted where it was scheduled, can always attend. Federation, IM or calls between Skype for Business or Team user in different tenant. Chat and calling. Sender can be any federated Skype for Business on-prem, online, hybrid or not, or Teams online only. Recipient experience is defined by the mode applied to user and where his user Skype for Business account is home. Is it online, on-premise, or hybrid? Meeting can be scheduled in Skype for Business or Teams. Meeting will be hosted where it was scheduled and can always attend. Here I'm going to show you the coexistence mode and what are the features in every one of them. The first one is Team only mode, requires home in Skype for Business Online, which is mean you have to enable Skype for Business Online for that use. Calls and chat will be landed on Teams. The meeting will be scheduled through Teams, and the team channels will be available for that user. And this has been enabled by default for all the new tenants that have more than 500 users and above as of 1st of October 2018. The second mode is Skype for Business with Team Collab and meetings. Chat and calls will be landed in Skype for Business client. The meeting schedule will be happening in Teams. You can have also team channel are available. Meeting first scenario, enable on-premise customer to benefit from Teams meeting functionality if not yet you're ready to move calling to the cloud. Skype for Business with Teams collaboration only. Chat and calls will be landed in Skype for Business client. Meeting schedule needs who need to be remain on-premise. Island, chat and calls can either land on Teams or Skype for Business. Meeting can be scheduled through Teams add-ons or Skype for Business add-on. Team channels are available, recommended for online organizations that can migrate fast. Allow a single user to evaluate both clients side by side. Chat and calls can land in either clients. User must continue to run both clients and sign in both of them. What is required? The most critical part, I need to have all the user to be synced to the cloud. Proper sync is required for creating team user. If not, risk of duplication of TLS entries, user account, broken routing, and policies. So the most important part here, I have to sync the user to Azure AD. Updated Sky for Business Hybrid documentation. I need to enable hybrid in order to manage the coexistence. Required for interoperability for teams. Required also for migrating between on-premise users, Sky for Business to Sky for Business Online /Teams. How you can do the modes. So I open my Team Admin Center. I have first the org-wide upgrade mode. As you can see from the screen, I went to the org-wide, I went to the Teams upgrade. I found something called the coexistence mode. I can choose from the mode that is showing from the screen. From the PowerShell, I have get CS team upgrade configuration, list of the current team's upgrade configuration. It's an org-wide. The scope is org, which has been applied to all. I can set, which is I can put the policy in place, modify the team client download and Sky for Business meeting join client experience. It's an org-wide. Get CS team upgrade policy, list the available upgrade policies for teams that has been created in the org-wide. For example, enable Teams client auto download and set Skype meetings app as preferred join UX or the join client. So set CS Teams upgrade configuration dash download Teams equal to true, so people can download Teams. Dash Skype for Business meeting join UX, it will be Skype meetings app. So the default application for meeting will be Skype for Business. As you can see, if we change something here, like the policy, you will get something called notification. So if we see the option of notify Skype for Business user that an upgrade to Teams is available, once you set this notification, the user will see that notification on his client to understand that people, your administration or organization is trying to upgrade to Skype for Business, to Teams. This is now a pair user. So I would like to have like some group of users have a different interop mode and some users have a different interop. So when I go to the Team Admin Center, I click on users, I click insertion on the account that I want to look for, and I will find something called Teams upgrade in the down, which is showing that which upgrade mode. First of all, it shows that I'm using the org-wide setting. So whatever org-wide setting has been applied, I'm taking that effect. I can go and click on edit. And once I click on edit, I can see all the modes that enabling for Skype for Business, and I can choose the appropriate one for that user in order to maintain that functionality. Also, I can do it by a PowerShell. So get CS team upgrade policy, list all of the available policies that I can create on site Teams. It will be an org-wide. And then I can create the policy, whatever I want, and grant the CS teams upgrade policy, assign an upgrade policy to an individual user, override the org-wide settings. So the user setting will always override the org-wide settings. Example, set a user for Teams only mode, grant CS Teams upgrade policy, dash identity, the name of the user, dash policy name upgrade to Teams. So this means Teams only mode will be only used for that user. Set a user for an island mode, grant CS team upgrade policy, dash identity and the name of the user, dash policy name is island. Now we will speak about Microsoft Teams policy. Microsoft Teams have many policy settings that include messaging policy, meeting policy, external access policy, live event policy, voice over IP policy, voice policy, and many other policies. The first policy we're going to see, messaging policy. Messaging policy are controlled in the Microsoft Team Admin Center. You can have a global one, which is created by default, and you can create also a custom one depending on which feature you want to like to enable. You can see some messaging policy is configured. Sorry, this is messaging policy. a messaging policy consideration. Control what chat and channel messaging feature are available to user in Teams. Are there any features such as Jeffy, stickers, edit, and delete that you need to restrict for some or all users? Do you need multiple policy for people in your organization? For example, user can delete a sent message, user can edit sent messages, I can have a user read receipt, I can make people use Jeffy on our conversation, I can control what kind of activities to be done. Meeting policy also are controlled in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. Consideration control whether anonymous user can join Teams meetings. For example, I'm getting a user outside my organization. Can he be able to join that meeting or no? Meeting settings will be used for all Teams meetings that users schedule in your organization. Does your organization have any requirement around guest or anonymous communication? So for example, if I see here some of the policy, can I enable screen sharing mode on the meeting, yes or no? Allow a participant to give or request a control. So I would like, for example, like give somebody control to my machine in order to do some other functionality. Allow an external participant to give or request control. So people outside my organization can take control of my desktop. Allow for PowerPoint sharing, allow whiteboard, or allow shared notes. You can also create multiple meeting policy and assign the policy per user, and the user will override the org-wide settings. Teams meeting also can be set via PowerShell. Set CS team meeting policy dash identity, and you can put HR meeting policy, which is the name of the policy. Dash auto admit users, which is mean everyone. Everybody in the meetings will be by default able to join the meeting without waiting in the lobby or getting any kind of permission order to wait until join. So you allow admit everyone. Allow meet now false, which is mean you cannot press on the meet now option in order to do the meet now functionality. Live event policy are controlled also in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. Control whether anonymous user can join or transcription recording is enabled. So you can see here, I can see what to be done for the anonymous user especially. Meeting setting will be used for all Teams live event that user schedule in your organization. And also you can see from here, allow scheduling on or off, allow transcription for attendees on or off. Who can join scheduled live events? Everyone in the organization, which is mean at your domain, or you can choose from the drop-down menu what is exactly for that team live event policy. Allowing recording to be allowed by default. So whatever you're starting the meeting will be starting recording directly. Also, you need to understand, does your organization have any requirements around the creation of or recording of live events? The second thing is a policy package. A policy package in Microsoft Teams is a collection of predefined policies and policy settings that you can assign to users who have similar roles in your organization. When you assign a policy package to users, the policy in the package are created, and you can then customize the setting of the policy in the package to meet your organization needs. You can find the policy package when you go to the policies and policy packages. You will find that predefined a policy package like educational, higher education, primary school, education, secondary, education teacher, healthcare, information worker, whatever kind of the name of the policy. When you click on one of them, you will find that this assigned policies assigned to that package, meeting policy, messaging policy, app setup policy, calling policy, and live event, which is all of them combined on that package. And then you can assign the package to that user. Also, you can modify the functionality of this package. Policy package can be used for the educational, also can be used for a different organization. They can leverage the part for enabling this kind of feature or this kind of package to this user. He doesn't want to create multiple policy. He will create just this package, and after that, he will assign that package to the user. So how policy package is working? First, you have to view the settings of the policy in the policy package. For example, as we see from the educational part, which package that you would like to enable. Once you do it, you have to assign the policy package for that user. So go to users and find the user that you want. And once you find the user, assign the policy to the user in order to maintain that this policy package will be assigned with all that feature or this policy to that user. Policy in the policy package are created. So by default, this is very important point. By default, it is dimmed. So you cannot control or modify the policy package inside Microsoft Teams. So you have to assign one of the policy package to a user. Once it has been assigned, the dimmed option will be removed, and you can control what are the policies inside that policy package, and you can modify them. After it has been assigned to that user, you will find that the dim option will be removed, and you customize policy in the policy package depending on your need, and then you can apply this policy package to these users that you want to apply.
There is no background noise. All these things, that becomes a good experience part of the call. And when people complain about the poor experience, that could be related to the joining issues with the meetings. That could be related to the difficulty in hearing the voice. There could be jitter, there could be echo. The experience wise, the video is not synchronous. It could also be blurry videos. The presentation seems to be lagging behind and unable to catch up with the presenter. Sometimes the person gets distracted totally. There is a lot of background noise. All these things become part of the poor experience when it comes to the call quality definitions. So what are the factors that is defining call quality? The major factors that is defining quality of a call is call reliability, media quality itself, and also the person who is handling the call, or person who is participating in the calls. When it comes to reliability, the call gets established expected. Calls do not drop midway through. The initiation is fine. The call establishment is fine. When it comes to media quality, then the users are able to hear and see everything they need to in their calls. This is something that is the expectation for the call quality. And who matters? User quality of experience. Can I make calls successfully? So this is a user's perception. So user thinks that my expectation is slightly different, and they have the my call rating MCR. This is some of the feedback that user can provide, and that also become part of your call quality dashboard experience overall. And the call might be marked as the MCR rating of the call might be come in as a poor call, though the call parameters might be good. The admin quality of life. Can I discover, diagnose, and resolve voice quality issues effectively? This is another thing that also become part of the overall call quality definitions, because unless we have an option to look at a call and understand what has been the overall experience and what has been the overall parameters that is used in a call, it is not easy for someone to define what is the call quality has been. The influencing factors for media quality is mainly environmental factors, the devices used, and the network as well. When it comes to environmental factor, it could be acoustical noise or voice visual noise. The devices, it could be those devices that is not certified for Teams, the devices for that is causing driver issues and issues with the capturing audio video, the rendering devices. This can also be causing problems. The connectivity to Office 365 network, that is a major factor that determines or that becomes the influencing factors for call quality. Also, the quality of network and the available bandwidth, that are the important factors again. With that in mind, let's talk about the connectivity principles for network. towards O365 and Teams endpoints. Path to Sky for Business Online and Teams. The three major layers that becomes the core layers of connectivity is your corporate network, internet, and Microsoft networks. So every call that you're making, that goes through three layers for sure. The ultimate goal of Office 365 networking is to optimize the end user experience by enabling the least restrictive access between clients and the closest Office 365 endpoints. As you know, Microsoft Teams relies on low latency, especially during the functionalities that involves media, such as audio calling, video calling, application, or desktop sharing. Microsoft Global Networks, which is the third layer that you have seen in the previous slide. Microsoft Network is continuously optimizing core aspects of Office 365, such as availability, the global reach, and performance for internet-based connectivity. We are continuously working on getting the peering locations as close as possible for the customer's network, strategically placing the network edge points of presence, interconnecting with the more than 2,500 ISPs and partners over 190 locations. In addition to that, we also continuously focusing on the core principles such as managing capacity and ensuring the resiliency. We also need to understand about the communication flow here. As we know from Skype for Business and Teams, both share the same principles in terms of connectivity. It has every call has a signaling factor and audio or video. What I would say is media factor. So signaling always goes through your firewall and then reaches the Office 365 backend. Media that depends on the client endpoints and also the modality. If it is conferencing, media always goes via the firewall and then reaches the Teams backend. When it's a media between peer-to-peer call within the corporate network and there is no firewall across these clients, it is expected to be a direct media. We call it as peer-to-peer call. The same peer-to-peer call, if that is blocked or that is two different branches or two different subnets blocked by a firewall, that media will also take the route via your firewall and then goes to the backend of O365, which we call it as transport relay, and then relays back to the other client. The connectivity depends on the core factors, including latency, jitter, packet to reorder ratio, and packet loss. Office 365, as you know, is a secure, reliable, high-performance service that runs over the public internet. When considering using Office 365 for any of the included services, such as Teams video or meeting capabilities, you are expected to complete an end-to-end network assessment and meet the connectivity requirements and assess the latency factors. High latency can cause extremely poor performance of video and audio streams and slow responses of data retrieval, searches, real-time collaboration, and other modalities like freebie information, etc. could also be impacted. The Microsoft Global Network was designed to accommodate latency requirements with the distributed services front door infrastructure, a dynamic fabric of global entry points that routes incoming cloud service connections to the closest entry point. This is intended to reduce the length of the last mile for Microsoft Cloud customers by effectively shortening the route between the customer and the cloud. Packet loss is another critical parameter that defines the overall call quality. Ideally, it should not be more than 1%. What is the symptoms of packet loss? You might see a loss of audio or broken audios. You might also see some robotic voice due to audio healing process that's happening as a healing process of Teams mechanism. Frozen video or video with lots of fragmentations. Delays in your hearing. These are all the symptoms. How do we limit the packet loss? Comparison between Wi-Fi and wired LAN network, that is something that you can do to understand if this problem happens within Wi-Fi networks. Improving the Wi-Fi reception in case of Wi-Fi, increase the bandwidth. Jitter, what is jitter? The jitter is a buffer. We call it as audio packet waiting room. The arriving audio packets that are stored in jitter buffer. So when a string of audio packets arrive, then a gap in packet arrival occurs. The next set of audio packets arrives. The buffer can be used to bridge this gap. Normally, jitter buffer is used to buffer some packets to restore original sequence. Size of the buffer in millisecond, which is something we define it as 30 milliseconds. That is needed to store packets before reconstructing the correct order. Packet reorder. The percentage of packets that do not arrive in order they were sent. This is the definition of it. The symptoms are high amount of out of order packets can lead to the same kind of issues that we had with the packet loss. Again, how do we improve it? Network congestion is one of the critical factors that causes the packet reorder. So increase in bandwidth. Again, Wi-Fi is one of the things that you might need to look at. If this is happening, it's a comparison that you can always do. If it is happening with Wi-Fi, or is it all fine with the LAN networks. Continuous monitoring is required from network to network. Sometimes I have seen that this issue happens from ISP's level also. So having traces collected from different endpoints like client endpoints, your egress network endpoints. So these are all a requirement to understand where is the actual packet reorder issue happens. Is it internally or is it externally? Some of the proxy devices that's causing it. How do we optimize the network? Enterprises who have adopted Office 365 can take advantage of the Microsoft Global Network's distributed services front door architecture by ensuring that user connections to Office 365 take the shortest possible route to the nearest Microsoft network entry point. Also, you need to ensure the efficiency of the DNS resolutions. Network hairpins can cause routing or peering inefficiencies. So as much as possible, try to have the closest routing. If you have branches that is using a centralized routing, ensure that the clients from the branch side is not passing through too many hops and doesn't cause a lot of latency, etc. within your corporate networks. As much as possible, try to have the direct routes from the branch sites to the Office 365 destinations. So that's the part we are discussing here in this slide, improving routing. So reducing the IT network management overhead, by having closest route. So you can see here, head office in this diagram connecting via ISP to the Microsoft network directly, and also the branch office. Instead of having branch had to traverse via head office and then egress out towards the O365. Similarly, avoid avoid the VPN route for the Teams connectivity. Use the split VPNs for O365 connectivity, and especially the Teams audio video. Egress network connections to optimize the category locally. There are two components in Microsoft Cloud that can be in the path of media traffic. They are media processor and transport relay. So the IP address is what you see in this table that contains both the media processor and transport relay destinations. The media processor is a public-facing component that handles media in non-bypass cases and handles media for voice applications. Media processor is a transcoder as well. It can do the transcoding like Silk between Teams client and media processor. It can do the transcoding from Silk to G711 between media processor and the session border controllers. At the same time, the transport relay is used to connect to the closest transport service to send the real-time traffic. So media processors are always in the path for end-user non-bypassed calls. Media processors are always in the path for all voice applications such as call park, organizational auto attendant, and call queues. Teams media processors are always inserted in the media path when it's a call, the call becomes escalated to group call, when the call is going to a federated team user, when the call is forwarded or transferred to a Skype for Business user. So in all the scenarios, the Teams media processors are always comes into the path. So we need to ensure that these destinations, this media relay and media processor and transport relay destinations are always allowed. This is an optimized category. So when I say optimized category in Office 365 network, IP address and URL recommendations, you have three categories. One is optimized category, one is default category, and one is allow category. We always recommend optimized category ports or IP addresses or destination URLs supposed to reach the Office 365 endpoints directly. Okay, that's the recommendation. So in order to optimize your network, there are several factors that you might need to look at, especially from the network perspective. So first thing first, the DNS lookups and DNS performance is should be optimal. That is something that we need to take care of. Ensure that shortest path is chosen towards O365. The proper TCP negotiations like TCP window scaling, the factors of MSS values, SAC, selective acknowledgement, etc. must be optimal, and also ensure low latency as much as possible. Good throughput with the proper bandwidth planning. You need to ensure that the file transfer, upload and download, etc. that is sufficient for the Auth365 workloads. Reliable connectivity. Ensure efficiency routing and peering, no proxy authentication, so minimum or no packet loss. Whitelist Office 365 URLs from any of the IDS and IPS systems. Optimized category URLs must be always bypassed from the proxies. That's where the Teams URL comes in and Teams destination IP addresses comes in. Minimum duplicate acknowledgement, no retransmission or no minimum retransmission rate. When I say that below 1%, try to have it below 1% if possible. Avoid SSL interception, deep inspection, etc. for both optimize and allow category. If you're still using centralized routing, ensure that you have good WAN connectivity and there are many hops in between. Always monitor the call quality dashboard, understand the call quality dashboard better, because for every company, the pattern of usage would be different. So after some time, you would be forming up your own analysis skills and your own pattern of analysis. By looking at it, you can immediately understand where it is happening. So use the best practices for call quality analysis. In this case, we'll talk about it later. Split tunnel VPN must be configured by passing VPNs for all the calls from Teams. Quality of service to be implemented. Optimize Wi-Fi. Implement quality of service for Wi-Fi multimedia to ensure media prioritization over Wi-Fi. So these are some of the major things that you need to look at from the network optimization perspective. The rule of thumb for firewall and routing planning is shortest path to Auth365 is the best thing. You can do always that. Closing ports is not good. It can lead to call quality degradation. Any obstacles in between, such as proxies or intrusion prevention devices, etc., are not recommended for the Auth365 traffic, because Auth365 is your own data center that carries your own data. So the client connectivity to access your data, that must not be interrupted. That's the concept. It is, of course, slightly different from the conventional way of thinking, where we were always thinking about, the packets that is coming from outside to inside. But now this is a totally different direction as well. General flow and hops, what we recommend is client to network edge, which is your own egress point. That it should not be more than 3 or 5 hops. Once you hand over the packet to ISP should be able to route that to the Microsoft peering points within 3 hops. This is a general recommendation. We need to see if there is a local peering point and we are able to hand it over within the shortest possible way. If the routing efficiency is not good, then it is something that you can also talk to Microsoft. You can talk to the ISP as well. Microsoft Network Edge to final destination is not a problem. It is not a concern from your side now. But from your network perspective, from the client, you need to reach the Office 365 endpoints or peering point as soon as possible. Proxy or traffic packet shaper, or the speed inspectors, SSL inspectors, etc., or some devices that causes authentication, some devices that does the the certificate replacement. So these kind of inspections in the network is not recommended. So there are some articles which specifically talks about this. So this is one thing that you can take into consideration when you plan Office 365 workloads and when you plan the connectivity towards Office 365. Okay, let's talk about network planning part now. So the importance of network planning. Why? So the objective is to have performance improvements, and we think that performance improvements can drive user adoption and increase the user adoption overall. It's better to prevent. Better prevention is always better than cure. It's also say that if something just works, that doesn't mean that it's working right. There could be something that we can still improve on that part. Bandwidth planning is of course important. The Teams media, though it is optimized, have some dependency on bandwidth. Bandwidth is also essential for quality of service implementation. Teams in a way is designed to give the best audio, video and content sharing experience, regardless of your network conditions. However, when bandwidth is insufficient, Teams prioritizes the audio quality over the video quality. If the bandwidth is not limited, Teams optimizes media quality, including it can use up to 1080 pixels of resolutions and 30 frames per second. It can give you the best high fidelity audio. The lack of bandwidth might cause the user experiences and quality degradation. You may use the bandwidth usage monitor from Auth365. You can have the monitoring agents installed on the machines. You can have different pilot machines from different network segments and install the monitoring agents on that. The data can be collected from the Azure Analytics portal. And for this bandwidth planning, Team Admin Portal provide you a planner, a network planner tool, which is available now in the Teams Admin Portal Center. Network Planner allows you to create representations of your organization using sites and Microsoft recommended personas. There are 3 personas by default: office workers, remote workers, and Teams room system. You can define all the sites, including main site and branch sites, define all the network settings that you have, provide all the subnets that belongs to each site, provide the WAN link capacity, how much WAN link you can dedicate for audio traffic and video traffic, what is your bandwidth link, whether the WAN link or internet link, provide those links, and dedicate a specific persona for the users, and then you can create the report. By default, we takes up to 30% of your WAN link capacity or internet capacity for the team traffic. That is considered to be the safe limits. But if you have concerns on that, you can define a different limit, and the report will indicate whether the specific thresholds what you have defined would be sufficient or not. Ideally, the Teams is designed to give the best audio, video, and content sharing experience, regardless of your network conditions. However, when bandwidth is insufficient, Teams prioritizes audio quality over video quality. So, based on the recommendations or based on our documentation, you can see that the scenarios and the bandwidth consumption for different scenarios that varies. So the team can start working from 30 kbps for audio calls, right? And based on high definition videos, the frames per second, etc., the call quality will improve, as well as the bandwidth might go up as well. So if you look at this table, this describes how Teams uses bandwidth. Teams is always conservative on bandwidth utilization, and it can deliver high definition video quality in under 1.2 megabits per second. The actual bandwidth consumption in each audio or video call or meeting will vary based on several factors, such as video layout, the resolution, and as we discussed, the frames per second. When more bandwidth is available, quality and usage will increase to deliver the best experience. The quality of service is a way to allow real-time network traffic such as audio, videos, etc., that is very sensitive to the network delays, to get prioritized in front of the other less sensitive traffic. Quality of service identifies and marks all packets in real-time streams. You may use Windows group policy objects, and also Teams have global settings to define and enable quality of service. You need to use that. And at the router level, you need to use the port-based access control list to enable DSCP marking on the packets, or consider the packet as priority packets. Ideally, both the directions need to be tagged. The Teams client can tag only outbound traffic. So incoming traffic need to be tagged at the ingress point. The global settings that have a value, you have a setting called insert quality of service markers for real-time media traffic, which need to be turned on, which applies to all the mobile devices, Mac devices and all. So the port ranges that we use is 50,000 to 50,059 overall. So if you are not defining any bandwidth, we will only have a single pipe where all this audio, video traffic, everything comes together. So if you define the DSCP value properly, then we will have different pipes and different priorities can be defined based on the DSCP value. Also, we need to understand about the candidates here, how clients communicate with the transport relay. So as we were discussing, we have the port number from 3478 UDP to 3481 UDP. The client will always connect to the transport relay on UDP 3478. Based on the tenant configuration for quality of service, the client can use workload specific ports. So on the right hand side, you can see the diagram. You can see the connectivity methods where 3478 goes to the transport relay. So if the tenant has the quality of service disabled, then the further communication, irrespective of the modality like audio, video, whichever, that is going to happen on 3478 itself. But if we have the quality of service implementation properly defined in the tenant level, so if it is audio quality, audio traffic, the transport relay is going to give you a redirection on 3479 ports. In cases where UDP is blocked, Teams fail back to 443 TCP, which is not going to give you good experiences. However, call will work. We were discussing in the previous slide that we have a utility called bandwidth monitor. You may use the bandwidth monitor leveraging the Azure monitoring workspace and the service map solutions. And you can have this installed in few machines in your network, which can understand how much is the bandwidth being utilized. You can make the query for Teams and understand how much overall you are using from each machine. So this is going to be the initial bandwidth planning method that you're going to leverage, and this is highly suggested to have the bandwidth monitoring to be utilized. Next, we will talk about call quality monitoring methodologies. So we need to talk about what is call quality dashboard and what is call analytics first. Suppose he uses poor call quality is due to a network issue that also affects many other users. The individual call experience is not visible in the call quality dashboard, but the overall quality of calls made using Microsoft Teams or Skype for Business is captured. With CQD, overall patterns may become apparent. So network engineers can make informed assessments of call quality. Call quality dashboard provides reports of call quality metrics that give you insight into overall call quality. Server to client stream, client to client stream, voice quality, SLAs, and so on. So difference between call analytics and call quality dashboard, CA and CQD. Call analytics allows you to get all details for a specific user, individual user. Ideally, CA can be used reactively when users report poor call quality experiences. Call quality dashboard, on the other hand, shift the focus from specific users and instead looks at aggregate information for an entire tenant or entire team or entire activity. So you can define the pattern from call quality dashboard. It is always recommended that you upload a TSV or CSV file with all the network information. So give all the subnets, the building information, network name, the location, all this information you need to upload to the call quality dashboard, which is going to give you the optimal reporting structure in call quality dashboard when you look at it. In general, the performance requirements for good call quality is, latency less than 50 milliseconds, packet loss less than 1%, and so on. You have a proper documentation for this. So how do we assess the call quality? By using simple tools, we can assess it manually. We have something called Skype for Business Network Assessment Tool. And we also have another tool called Network Testing Companion. So both are used to understand call quality on an ad hoc basis or also for a scheduled time window. So you can run for 500 times, or you can define the number of iterations, and this gives you a proper results about how the networking, the main parameters like packet loss, jitter, packet reorder ratio, and latency has been. This is how the tenant data file structure look like. So when we start using CQD and CA, the first thing first, we need to upload the TSV file or CSV file, which contains your network IP, network name, the range of networks, the building types, ownership types, the city, region, etc., etc. The reason for that is when you look at the call quality dashboard or call analytics reports, it gives you a better understanding about which building it belongs to. You'll also have the ways to detect the specific building and understand how the call quality has been in that building. So this is an example of call analytics. Call analytics and CQD run in parallel and can be used independently or together. Call analytics shows detailed information about the devices, networks, connectivity related to the calls and meetings for each user in Microsoft Teams. The call analytics, either admin user or help desk agent can investigate the devices, the network, connectivity, and many other factors related to a call to troubleshoot a specific issue that user is reporting to help desk team or admin team. If you look at the screenshots here, I'm looking at one of the conferences, and there has been multiple streams in that conferences, multiple participants in that conferences, and one of the participant had a poor call experience. And when we are looking at the reasons for that, we can see that the average round trip time has been more than 500 milliseconds, and that's why the particular user's call quality has been marked as poor. So the CQD in Teams has been enhanced a lot. Currently, it is capable of giving you data update within 30 minutes. It provides you the end user identifiable information as well. This gives a lot of additional details like usernames, devices, full IP addresses, the MAC addresses, BSS ID, etc. Then this is also Power BI connector embedded, which gives the normal call quality reports that you have been seeing in Skype for Business Online before, or Skype for Business, we call it as CQD V2 version, and now this is CQD V3 version. This is also supporting new scenarios where call quality by region, call reliability or failures by region, right? Rate my call by region. There are help desk reports, there are utilization reports, there are endpoint reports, client version reports, a lot many reports that is existing in the CQD now. One thing we need to understand when you're looking at the CQD is what is stream and what is call, right? Everyone knows that what call is. And one call consists of at least 2 streams or more than that, depending on the type of call. Peer-to-peer scenarios, between internal users. A simple audio call may have 2 streams, but in conference scenarios, there will be at least 3 streams and more than that. So streams are actually classified in 3 different categories. Right? One is good quality, good stream, poor stream, or unclassified stream. So this is how the stream classification comes in. So a audio stream is classified as poor in case the audio degradation average is greater than 1%. I would say, sorry, audio degradation average is greater than 1. round trip time is greater than 500 milliseconds, or packet loss rate is more than 10%. These are all the classifications for marking the audio call as poor. The video stream is marked as good or poor based on the value of some of the parameters like freeze duration statistics, overall call experiences, etc. There are something called video local frame loss percentage average that should not be more than 50%. There are certain, so these classifications, why this classification comes in and what is the baselines for this classifications, it's all documented well. You need to refer the articles that talks about call quality dashboard, stream classifications. Unclassified is based on the values that is sometime, that doesn't have the proper key quality metrics defined in that. It can be unclassified because interactive connectivity establishment, we call it as ICE. This connectivity fails, or when all the metrics required to compute the stream classifications are not reported well, or the call has been too short to even identify some call quality metrics out of it. So these are all the scenarios where a call can be considered as unclassified segment. So we were talking about some of the classifiers, what is the classification used for understanding, the audio and video classifications, whether it's a good classification or poor classification. So some of the parameters are here. So audio degradation average should not be more than 1 round trip should not be more than 500 milliseconds and so on. So this is also in the documentation. Similarly for video also we have the similar classifiers, video local frame loss and video frame rate average, etc. So when we talk about the role-based access control, what role is required for accessing CQD? At least you need to have the global reader or report reader access to access CQD. So when you access cqd.teams.microsoft.com, you will find initially the summary reports, and then you can drop down, you can find all the other reports under that. This view in CQD version 3 compared to version 2 has totally changed. You can see the bar graphs here, where on the left and right you can see the values. Left side indicates the stream count and right side indicates the percentage of poor calls. You can also hover the mouse over the bar where it is going to show you the numerical values. Overall, CQD version 3 summary reports and all the other reports that has been built with embedded Power BI, where it provides you the detailed reports on call quality, reliability, rate my call, the conference quality and reliability, peer-to-peer quality and reliability. So today when you log into the CQD portal, you can definitely see this part of it, the first part of the reports that is available. So we have several reports that is available today. So we have the location enhanced reports, which gives us the information related to the buildings. Again, this is all dependent on if you have uploaded your tenant building subnet information. Then we have the quality of experience reports and the detailed reports on that, the drill down reports for call quality. The rate my call reports, help desk reports, etc., which is coming by default with all the tenants. And now we also have the Power BI reports. Only thing is this is still in preview. You can see that in screenshot here. But you can use the Power BI desktop version. The Power BI templates for CQD is downloadable. You will be using the Power connector for connecting to the CQD, import that into the Power BI, and then connect to the call quality dashboard. You can get all the reports, all the dimensions. You can manipulate that. You can actually have your own custom dashboards to understand the call quality matrices. How do you configure that? You have to download these templates here, CQD desktop report, location enhancement report, etc. And there is a connector called Microsoft Call Quality.pqx. The location of these files has to be under Documents, Power BI Desktop, and Custom Connector. Then you go to the Power BI Desktop version, get data, and select the online services and select the Microsoft Call Quality Beta. When you use this connector, you will find this Microsoft Call Quality Beta for searching. And once you have this selected, you can connect with your username and password, which is used to access the Call Quality dashboard part. So this is one of the examples of the Power BI reports that we have for Call Quality dashboard. There's several reports, several information indeed, related to conference reliability, peer-to-peer call quality, the RMC overall, which is rate my call overall, and here you can see that when you look at the reliability, we were discussing that what is reliability, which means the mid-call failures or call setup failures and the reports of that. So here you can see that what is the percentage failure for DPI and deep packet inspection kind of failures. If there are failures because of the IP blocking, etc. So this all comes as part of the conference or call reliability reports. Again, one of the great reports that we have is the location enhanced reports. Once you have the data related to your tenant subnet information, building names, and network information uploaded, you can actually get the details of call quality with respect to a specific building, specific area, etc. So we also have the selection in the reports where you can select for or look for the top worst buildings and top best buildings. Based on that, you can understand what has been the overall call quality rate. So this one is actually a screenshot from the location enhanced reports. You can see it as the arrow indicate that top best buildings and top worst buildings, which you can select. And in the next slide, I can show you that how does it look like when the number of buildings and locations are uploaded to the tenant. It can actually identify which building has the best call quality and which building has the poor call quality. So that's a great identification in terms of call quality troubleshooting. So this is one of the examples that we can look at always from the location enhanced reports. So when you select the top worst buildings for last few months, you can get the classification for the Wi-Fi networks and wired networks. What has been the poor call rate? What is the percentage of it? Based on the percentage, if it is more than 1%, more than 5%, etc., it has a classification. And this is one of the good way you can troubleshoot the call quality problems, especially when you have number of clients connecting from different locations and talking about call quality. So this kind of pattern, when you actually work on this call quality issues for some time from the company, you will definitely have a pattern of the issues. And that's one of the ways that you can talk to networking team and then understand where there is a problem with that particular location. It could be anything within the network. It could be related to the ISP that the particular location is connecting to. But again, my point is that you can use the Power BI reports to have lots of information, which this collects by default, as well as you can customize it to gather the more appropriate data that is needed for the organization. Similarly, this also provides you help desk report. By using help desk report, you can drill through the user details, conference details, location details, etc. This is the screenshot of a help desk report where you have an option to search users by alias, search by conference ID, search by date, and on the right hand side you can see the users sorted by highest poor count, the conference sorted by highest poor call count for this particular user. On bottom pane you can see all the tabs that is available for the help desk report, like user activities, conference details, location details, etc., which is ideally helpful for a person who is receiving a complaint about a call quality issue and you wanted to investigate more on this. So this is one of the fantastic report which you can utilize. Teams utilization report is one of the major business-friendly report, which shows you the overall utilization, the number of conferences, the call count summary. You can also drill through the conference IDs to see the participants counts. You can also get the audio minutes in the organization for a specific period. So this is one of the best reports that you can leverage for all the business-related information. So the first tab in team utilization report is the call count summary, where you can see the audio call count, video call count, VPS stream count, etc. over a period of time or certain months. You also have the daily call count by media type for the past 30 days. You can select one of the day and then you can drill down through that to get the number of conferences. You will see the conference IDs. On top, you can also see the number of audio calls, external video calls in past 30 days in the first table there. This is one of the most business-friendly report, I would say. So when you drill through one of the days, you can actually go to one of the conference IDs here. You will see all the conferences IDs for that particular day. And then you can drill through it. On the next slide, I can show you the participant list. So here you can see the participants list, the start time, end time, the media type, the failure type, average duration of the call. So all this information, including the media quality information that you can find here. CQD also provides you the mobile network and devices reports, which contains the call quality and call reliability information from the mobile devices. So here is one of the examples from mobile devices, the call quality in terms of capture devices, render devices, what has been the poor call percentage, etc. And also it shows the drivers, device versions, and device names here. By using the same Power BI templates, you also have an option to map the external users' locations with the CQD. So especially these days when users are connecting from remote locations, you might need to understand which IP addresses and locations they are connecting from. To do this, you need to get the external IP and locations mapped to the user's details in Call Quality Dashboard. You need to download and import the IP location dataset from one of the providers. Given here is an example of such providers. The accuracy of the results that depends on the precision of the IP2 location dataset. Once the dataset is imported to the Power BI template, you may of course use the team utilization Power BI template for this, which I always use. You just need to create a relationship between Call Quality Dashboard data source and IP table. The specific field you will be using is second reflexive local IP in the query one table in the screenshot here, and reflexive end column from the IP table. You can always customize the reports according to the needs that you have in the organization. Through this slide, we will talk about the high levels of the team roadmap. There are a lot many features that is being shipped and that is to be shipped as well. So some of the major features that we are expecting is the group chat with up to 250 people. While we talk about this, many of the features would have even shipped now, because that's how the response from the backend team has been. They are very fast in this process. The new Satin codec makes the Teams meeting and calling experiences greater. Upload custom images for background effects in Teams meetings and policies to control it. We are also expecting the background noise reduction and offline access to Teams. Several policy changes that even can control the default presenter roles in meetings. The number of simultaneous videos from 4 to 9 that has already been shipped now. So also have the policy to control who can start the meeting with the pre-join meeting experiences, so that people from outside the company and all, they will still be in the lobby until someone joins the meeting. Team membership capacity enhancement. We expect to have up to 10,000 members in a team. There are additional Power Automate triggers going to be incorporated. Auto update setting for team fonts. I believe this is already shipped now. The walkie-talkie feature for Teams that enables clear voice communication over the cloud.